Welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guest on this next interview. As the Paralympic Games took place amid ongoing war in Ukraine, sport once again collides with geopolitics. The International Paralympic Committee allowed Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete as neutrals, sparking debate and calls for boycotts from some quarters. Is this a victory for inclusion or a compromise with politics? Joining us today on TVP World to unpack the controversy is Michał Pol, a sport expert and co-founder of Kanał Sportowy on YouTube, one of Poland's leading voices in sports commentary as well as analysis. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good evening.
So can you help us understand why did the International Paralympic Committee ultimately allowed Russian athletes to compete as neutrals?
At the beginning, I must clarify that during your introduction, it's true that I'm a co-owner of Kanał Sportowy YouTube channel. I'm a journalist for over 30 years, but during Paralympic Games, I'm officially press attaché of Polish Paralympic team. It will be my sixth Paralympic Games with our team, where I help with media to Polish athletes. So I must comment on behalf of the Polish Paralympic Committee. But even as a journalist and my colleague journalist, we don't know why International Paralympic Committee decided to allow Russia and Belarus athletes to compete under their flag, to hear their anthems after the medal at the medal ceremony. Why actually couldn't they just follow Olympic Committee, where Russian sportsmen, those who declared that they are against the war, could compete in Cortina, Milano under neutral flag, especially that the International Paralympic Committee was the first one to ban Russians first in Tokyo Olympic Games. It was due to doping control and doping scandals. Olympic Committee at that time allowed Russian athletes to compete, and Paralympics. Then they banned. Even in Pyeongchang, I guess, they banned Russia from the competition, from Paralympics, because they were cheating on doping and not even neutral flag, just out. And I remember when we arrived 4 years ago to Beijing Winter Olympic Paralympic Games with our crew. It was 4 days exactly after the invasion on Ukraine started. So when we arrived there in Zhangjiakou Paralympic village up at the Chinese wall up north, there were Russians and Belarusian athletes in the village. They were whole house with Russian flags decorated, and Polish Paralympic Committee along Ukrainian athletes at that time were still on their way to Paralympics, because there were no flights from Ukraine. They have to go by bus via Poland or to Austria to Poland, and there were also no commercial flights to Beijing at that time because of pandemic. So they all have to go to Paris first, and then the only connection was via Paris to Seoul, and then from Seoul to Beijing. So Ukrainians were not there even. They were on their way, but Polish Paralympic Committee at that time, and 14 other committees said they will boycott the Paralympic Games if the Russians and Belarusians will still compete. And when Ukrainians arrived, they said there is no possibility that we will compete along Russian athletes who just entered and started the war. So then, 4 years ago, Russian athletes and Belarusian athletes had to leave the village. They stayed with us for about 3 days, not competing, and it was very tricky situation because they are disabled sportsmen. They are also heroes, but they had to leave at that time. I don't remember all the countries who treated with boycott at that time, but definitely they were all Scandinavian countries, all the Baltic countries, Poland as well, Ukraine also, Germany, Holland, definitely. This time, it's not the case. No one treats with boycott. And why Paralympic Committee decided to allow Russia to compete? No one actually knows.
All right, this is actually quite perplexing. With your past experience, it does seem like as a breaking the mold from previous iterations of the Paralympics. But how divided do you think the international sporting community is over this? Do people simply not care, or do you still see a very significant uproar and outroar when it comes to the Russians competing?
There is a pressure all the time on all the sports organizations. We know that very good from other sport disciplines, even football, as we know. If it was only up to Gianni Infantino, Russia would compete probably at the World Cup in next couple of months, and he would like to see Russia and Belarus again in the family. There is no possibility because it's up to UEFA. UEFA is not. But we know there is a huge pressure on the members of the committee, and it's the same in all the other disciplines. So they just we only commented this way that it's a test, and we are sure whatever happened, Russia and Belarus will compete in the next Olympic Games as well, because it's such a balloon how everyone reacts. And as we see, there is boycott only of the opening ceremony and only by the officials. So Ukraine didn't declare that they will not compete during the Paralympic Games. They just said they will boycott opening ceremony, and there are other committees who will also boycott the opening ceremony in Verona. Polish officials also won't go to the opening ceremony. As far as I know, Ukraine asked also to remove their flag at all, because they don't want their flag to hang along Russian flag, but probably they will not be allowed to remove their flag. So it's only this time the boycott is only symbolic, because as I understand, Ukrainian committee, it's a Olympic Games and Paralympic Games it's also kind of soft power. Also they want to show that their disabled sportsmen, many of them veterans of the long war with Russia, some from 2014 and later years, they are true sportsmen, and they want to win medals and compete for Ukraine, to show that there is a country, that Ukraine is still a country. So I myself, I cannot judge them. I don't know what would I advise them. They just decided to compete, and probably we will see situations when there are Russian and Ukrainian athletes and at the same podium, at the same rivaling in the same competitions in Cortina, Milano Paralympic Games.
All right, like you mentioned, there's of course a lot of complex issue here, and it's really hard to just detach sports and geopolitics, especially when it's seen in a lot of places as ways to project soft power. Thank you so much for breaking all this down for us. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.